Hello, hello. Welcome to another episode of All About Moments. We have here with us our amazing co host. If you want to introduce yourself, we have the amazing me, myself, Princess. And then we have, go ahead, introduce yourselves.
Hey y'all, it's Aisha. Hope y'all are well.
It's Mary. Nice to see you. Really glad that you guys are back with us, and we're loving the likes in the comments.
Yes,
Thank
yes, yes.
you.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. So today we're gonna try something a little different. Each time we do these episodes, it's always a new moment. So we decided to do a movie review. The movie review is titled Straw by TylerPerry. So this movie really, what we're going to talk about, explores the movie about straw as a mirror to a real life emotional fatigue, especially among women who feel unseen, who feel unheard, and also overwhelmed. Through powerful storytelling, reflective quotes, we're going to deep dive into this because a woman sometimes gets pushed so much to the emotional edge. You don't know how love and kindness can restore what life really did try to break for them. So that's really what we're going to talk about today. So if we want to start it off, I don't know anybody who here wants to start it off. Well, who wants to give a brief summary of it? Go ahead.
I was going. I think we've all seen Straw. Most people have seen Straw, but just about this woman who just has a really tormenting day. It was piling up on her, and she snaps. And I'm not going to give any. Well, I guess we are going to be giving spoilers, but that's just my song. She kind of just snaps, and she does something that lands her into some serious, serious trouble. But it's very emotional, right? One of the things look, I'm gonna have to be real with y'all. When I saw the cover and how Taraji P. Henson was looking, I was very upset with Tyler Perry because I'm like, oh no, not another movie where another black woman is struggling and is going through, like, it's getting beat down. Like, I'm just so tired of it, right? Because we always know that Tyler Perry doesn't always show us well, you know? And so I can say I went in with some bias and did not want to watch it. But I ended up watching it with some family over the weekend. And it was really emotional because I think, yeah, like it was really relatable. I can connect to her story. Uh, but I think the most is how alone she felt, right? How she 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 didn't have a community, and even it was apparent when she was saying, like, when I go to jail, she kept saying, like, I'm the only one my daughter has. My daughter only has me. I only have my daughter. How that lack of community, how helpful that would have been in those moments where she needed just a couple dollars just to give her daughter for, the lunch money, right? Or someone to, like, help her cash her check, or someone to, like, go to the school so she didn't have to leave work, right? Um, these little things that if she just had a community, how beneficial that would have been, and probably prevented the ultimate situation that she was in. And how many people, life is hard, and we don't have that community that we used to, and they're struggling. And I can see how many people, as you pile up on all the different adversities that you're having to, like, get through, how that last one, it could be something small, will make you snap.
Yes, that's absolutely right. Mary. It definitely gave a good representation for a lot of Black women to be able to connect and relate. So I do appreciate Mr. Tyler Perry for that. You know, sometimes he could miss, but this one he may have gotten it right. And
He
we
misses a
appreciate
lot.
I think because he had three amazing women working with him that gave him all sorts of different uh, angles of life. However, nobody asked me. Nobody asked me, but that's okay. Um, maybe next time, maybe somebody, ask
Have
me.
Tyler Perry to consult. Maybe Tyler Perry can consult us over here all about moments, and we can help him make his feelings better.
Maybe,
Okay.
maybe.
Sorry.
Okay. Um, yes. Yeah, a movie review. It was emotional. I will say that I cried. Of course, I'm gonna cry. I'm a crybaby. I did cry. And it also just made me want to stand back on my soapbox about saying being kind and being gentle to others, to people, uh, to make sure that you are just being nice. The not spoiling the movie, but there was a point in her life, or there was a point in the movie, or a scene in the movie where she, so they could have been a little nicer to her. You know what I mean, in a certain scene. But other than that, I think that she had some grief. She was in shock for sure. She was definitely dealing with some like shock points and grief, and I could relate to that as well. Yeah, I mean, it was a really good, awesome movie. I'm glad that it was not in the theaters. You know what I mean? I'm glad that it was something I could watch at Netflix. So I'm thankful for that. But other than that, I'm not gonna go too deep next.
No, I definitely agree. I think this movie was sad. This movie, I don't want to bring a tear out, but at one point,
Don't say, don't say, don't say.
it hits to a point where I think Mary said it best, when you hit your last breaking point.
Hmm.
It's sad.
It
And
is.
everyone hits that last breaking point,
Yeah.
whether you like it or not. I don't even know why I'm emotional right now because I know I'm thinking about something.
I mean,
But how many
because the movie
women,
was emotional.
if you think about it, how many women are in crisis but still showing up smiling? Think
Come
about
on,
that.
talk
How many
about it.
women right now? How many women do you see or people do you see walking around and they still have to put a smile on their face? Who checks
Yes.
on the ones who are quote unquote always okay? Sometimes when I'm talking to my friends, they're not okay.
Hmm.
And it's just, but even if you tell somebody you're not okay, who checks up on you?
Yeah. Talk about it. Come on. Come
So
on.
that's a reflection. Just want people to think about right now.
Mhm.
Who
Mhm.
checks up on you? Because
Yes.
I think, oh gosh, there was a quote by somebody. I think her name's Nakia. I don't remember the last name. It was, behind every strong woman is a story that gave her no choice. That's wow. So now I have a question for you all.
There's a
What
point.
does the
There's
last
a
straw really mean emotionally?
I think
point.
you already said it. When you hit your breaking point, there's a threshold that we all have, right? And what happens if we, um,
Oh, Abby.
as we are dealing with things in our life, we have the capacity to cope with those things, right? Like we all build coping skills. We all become resilient.
I got the person who said that Nakia Homer.
You know,
Nakia Homer. She said behind every strong woman is a story that gave her no choice. I'm writing that down. I found it, but I'm gonna write it down. I'm sorry, Mary. I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No,
it's
thank you. Thank you for finding it.
yeah. So this is the threshold that we all have the capacity. Like we have coping skills and we can be resilient. But when certain things are happening to us and we don't have great foundations and we don't have really great coping skills or we don't have the capacity to really like work through that and it's piling up on us, um, as in the movie Straw, where multiple things were happening at once. And so she didn't get that meeting to come back to her normalcy, right, where she's able to cope and normally deal with things because they were all piling up at once. All that really left her, feeling like and her mind just broke, right? It snapped. Whereas normally we're able to make good decisions, we're able to think things out logically and rationally, so we don't snap and make really bad decisions in life. Um, she didn't have that, and so we've all snapped. Like it could be little snap, like we yell at our kids because we were really irritated, right? Or our spouses. That's snapping. It's not to the level of her snapping, but we've all snapped before, right? And we've done things. Or you've gotten in an argument with somebody, and because you're feeling pain, you say something that really hurt them, and then you're normal. And normally you would never do that. You would never go low, but because those emotions were overwhelming you, and so it kind of just took you there. And there's many ways that you can make sure you don't go there. That's all nothing. But we've all snapped before.
I had to tweet that. I had to post that. I used to go to a church, and the first lady would say, "Tweet that, Shatara," and I never knew who Shatara was. I was like, "Who is Shatara?" And then I ended up meeting her,
Oh,
end up working with her. Yeah, I used to. She said, "Tweet that, Shatara," and I never knew that was. So I had to tweet that. I had to post it. Thank you. But yes, what you said was very profound. Um, Abby, Mary, thank you. Sorry, love y'all.
I agree. Sometimes Mary said it really good. Sometimes we have to remember one thing. It's not a major event. Like Mary said, it could be the very last thing that could just make you snap. It's
yeah,
so
yeah,
interesting. Women are praised, even Black women are praised for being strong, But sometimes we don't want to be strong. We want to be vulnerable. We want to be
mm-hmm.
there. And I think the main character of the show, I don't think she just looked exhausted.
Mm-hmm.
Yes,
She
because it
looked
is exhausting
physically
being a black woman.
exhausted,
Yes,
emotionally exhausted, mentally exhausted. She just looked exhausted.
Mm-hmm.
I
She was
think I'm gonna
stressed.
start saying straw because I remember like even just recently I would be like I'm about to crash out. Like, oh, I tell my family I'm
Not,
about to crash out.
don't be using the new generation. Don't use their terms
I
to
would say it. You
crash
about
out.
to make me crash out because that's exactly what's gonna happen. So now I'm gonna start saying I'm about to pull a straw right now. I'm
Lord,
about to just go ahead. That's my
Have
new safety
y'all
word. It used to be pizza by the slice. Now it's gonna be pull a straw. You
straw?
already know. Somebody better call.
Wow. Well, have you ever
pull the straw.
reached your own breaking point? You don't have to tell your own personal story, but for our listeners out there, even for ourselves, have you all ever reached your own breaking point that you
Yes,
realize you
Yeah,
are
I think
at it?
yeah.
absolutely. I
Then
feel
the
like a
question,
breaking point is coming. Like, can you feel a breaking point
I don't
coming
think you
on?
can,
Like,
but have you,
you don't think you can feel a breaking point?
maybe
Mary,
you
you don't think
could a
you can feel
little
a breaking
bit.
point?
You can
Like, I'm
feel like,
about to go off.
Mhm.
I need to do something before I hit my breaking point. I've had it up to here. Okay? You know, like I feel like I can feel a breaking point if one more thing happens. You know what I mean? Like in the movie, Janaya just kept letting things pile up and pile up and pile up and pile. You know, like it seemed that way, and then all of a sudden it's like yeah, I've had it up to here. Or you tell somebody, you even tell someone like, I've had it up to here. You tell your children, I've had it up to here. If not, I'm about to let you know that I'm about to overflow with emotion and it's not going to be good. Whether it be good or bad, in her situation, it was bad. But, just an overflow of just emotion that will
Well,
send you to a
yeah,
breaking point.
and I think you can even just talk about Like obviously what happened with Janaya was pretty significant. We're not talking about like daily aggravation, like, oh, my boss is getting on my nerves and they messing with me, right? Oh, I got some relationship issues. She had some significant things going on from the loss of her child to losing her job. Her car got towed away. She was evicted. These are life
That's
changing
telling the
events.
movie.
Oh, I figured it was a movie.
Oh, it don't
It's,
matter. It's okay.
It's
yeah.
okay.
It literally was significant events. And she had all that happen in 24 hours, which of course is Tyler and he's gonna do it that way. But it ultimately could happen that way for a lot of people because when you look at how things do pile up, it does end up happening that way, right? For a lot of like parents, single parents, right? They're the only adult for their child. So when the school calls and the kid is sick or there's an issue at school, you do have to leave. And so that probably was piling up because she had a sick child, so she's probably been out of work a lot for her sick child.
Mm-hmm.
She's probably had to go to the school a lot, which for the job, I mean, I'm gonna play devil's advocate. Of course, they need staff, right? Now, like when he spoke to her, he's gonna better in a better way,
Right. That's
but
but
it's
yeah.
different. But so
But
yeah, that
even
probably did pile up for him as a supervisor. He was frustrated that, like, again, they were busy and she was leaving, and she was going to be gone, and
yes.
he was going to be without staff.
Yes.
There's a
Yes.
different way he could have handled that, but
Yes. For
yeah,
sure.
and her registration, obviously she low income. She probably I've been late on my registration. I can say a lot of you, and
Yeah.
when you get pulled over, they can decide whether to like
Give you a
you
ticket or
can't drive
not. Let you
anymore
go.
or just allow
Yeah.
you to go
It,
on. Yeah.
yeah, that's true. Also just and I know what you mean as far as things piling on, but even just in the midst of that, whether it was hallucinations or not, they were still calling about a past due bill. You know what I mean? So that's
Hmm.
another thing being piled on. So
Yeah.
yes, like when you've had it up to here, that's what I mean. Not just in one
Yeah.
day, of course, but just in a it can be in one day. Honestly, I've had
It
things
really
come
can.
in one day where it's like it is up to here. Or just
Yeah.
things that I know that are
Everything.
coming before me that I know that are going to be stressful or tasks or things that I know that are difficult before me that I have
So
to handle.
you're saying something kind of like the strong woman syndrome in a way that you have
Yeah.
it up to, they keep letting you continue, and you don't ever see a time to rest. But maybe
Yes.
if you do want to try to rest, they see it as like a weakness in a way. But you
Mhm.
continue to keep saying you have it up to here, you have it up to here, but you're still going on. You're still
You
going
still
on. You're
going.
still moving.
Mhm.
And honestly, if
I
people
think
just
also you have to realize some people don't. She didn't have room to rest because she didn't have anybody.
exactly, she did
It
not.
wasn't that like she wasn't choosing to not rest. She wasn't choosing. She didn't. It wasn't like some people. Yeah, and we can talk about like this whole syndrome thing, whatever. But she ultimately was in a position where she didn't have anyone that can take over, that can step in and help her out. So, so she was running on fumes because this is what she had at the time. That wasn't what she was doing. She had to be that
No,
way.
she had to be like that. And honestly, if we think about it too, people were not listening to her. Funny enough, if we did it from the perspective of the manager, the store manager, he probably was going through his own thing too, and probably was at his breaking point too. With
I mean, that
oh,
store
there's
was
not enough
crazy busy.
people. Right, the
I
store
mean, well,
was
first of all, if her
extremely busy.
daughter had died last night, and why would you even show up to work? That's number one. So she was already,
Well,
you could
remember, she
see
was
she
in
was
shock.
hallucinating.
She was in,
Yeah, she was
yeah,
clearly hallucinating
Right.
because you could have called out. You could have just not showed up.
yeah,
Your daughter passed away. You're in bereavement,
But you
so you
don't
don't
know
need to
how
be.
people
yeah.
go through.
But
That's
again, you don't.
that's true.
That's one how
That's
people. But
true.
one thing is that like with these jobs, and she's been out a lot. If she would have taken off, not taking away the shock part, because we know she was, she could have lost her job. She still has to continue on moving on. Obviously, she doesn't have a lot of income, doesn't have a lot of savings. Taking off, a lot of places don't give you bereavement. So some people do have to go to work when their kids are in the hospital or they lost a loved one because they don't have those, you know, benefits that some of us do have in some of our jobs. Um, she obviously was in shock over it. And he didn't know that. Like he didn't know that the girl had just lost her her
No,
daughter.
he didn't
He
know
didn't
that.
know all the stuff that she had going on. And that's what I'm saying. We never know what someone else is going through. And he definitely could have sat down and had a conversation with her about, like, hey, this is where the empathy sympathy conversation comes in, right? As
And
in, mhm.
I'm laughing at the scene on the movie. He was like, "You going to prison? You going to prison tonight? You did this. You set this up." And she was like, "No, I
No, I
didn't."
didn't. I didn't
Oh
do
my
nothing you
gosh.
said.
Yeah, he was not nice. He was not kind. Hmm.
Mm, not many
I don't want to
ways.
go into that because I go into a tangent and I don't think y'all want me to preach.
So you want to go into loving kindness? I think we should definitely go into the loving kindness. One thing in the movie you noticed is that she wasn't seen. She really was not seen. She wasn't heard. Nobody was really listening. Not maybe people were listening, but they weren't listening to understand what she is going through. And one thing to just as a reflection to just encourage people out there. How do I say this?
Take your time. Take your time, sis. Take your time.
So sometimes us as people, ooh, I don't know why this is touching me today.
Cause it's real. Cause it's real.
Sometimes listeners, I just want to encourage us as listen, all of us out here, that we need to be both honest about our limits and then gentle with those around us. Because you do not know what somebody's going through.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes you just have to put that smile on your face because you don't know what the other person's going through. Imagine somebody, for her, she had a loss of a child. Imagine somebody just came from a car accident. They couldn't get some time off work and they just had to suck it up. We need to start showing each other some compassion. And not only that, we need to show ourselves some self compassion as well. Because she just kept going and going.
Mm-hmm.
If you think about it, she was her own chicken because she just continuously, like the Energizer Bunny, going and going and going.
So that's all
Uh,
she knows, right? Like
that's sad.
all she knows is to keep going, right? Where like she was even in grief, even when her child died, her body and mind didn't shut down, right? Her body and
Right.
mind said like, oh, we got to keep going, we have to keep fighting. This is what we
She
do.
was worried about that
She
$40. She was
she
still
she
worried about
would,
that $40.
yeah,
Arya was gone.
yeah. She
Arya
would
was gone, and
she
she was worried
just
about that $40.
she went right into keep on fighting every single day,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
um, because that's what she's been doing. That's her trauma response is to keep fighting.
Yes.
And fighting doesn't always mean like a physical fight, right?
But
Um,
mentally,
it can
physically,
be
and
mentally.
the Bible tells us we fight against flesh and blood,
Mm-hmm.
against spiritual wickedness, things, principalities. Whether you believe it or not, that's what we fight against. So I don't. I'm glad Tyler Perry made this movie. I'm glad he said it was spiritual. He did say that. I remember seeing the video about him saying that it was spiritual. And of course, yeah, when I said I cried, of course, my daughter, Nate, like, when it named Arya, I was like, oh, really? Are you in my business? What's going on right now? So that was, somewhat real.
How many women in our lives right now are on their last straw, but we don't see it until it's too late? I remember years ago, I heard about this girl. There was so much pressure on her to, she became at a young age, she got her master's, really young age that she got her doctorate degree. And do you know what happened one day? Out of nowhere, she just went to, I don't know if it was a bridge or how she took her own life, but she took her own life. She reached her breaking point, but instead of being able to get help, she reached it to the point that she took her own life. How many women do we know who, and honestly, you will not probably know who's on their last straw.
It's true.
You will not know.
I
But
got something to say about that. I
yeah,
got something to say about, well, I don't know if I should say it on this recording because it's something I see on my Facebook and it bothers me. Um, because it kind of leads into that Like people think, oh, I'm being nice to you. I'm being kind. I'm using my manners. No, it is not that. I open a door for somebody. Da, da, da. It goes way past that. To me it does. And I hope I'm saying this right. Um, but the best way that I know to to help people understand where I'm coming from is using the fruits of the spirit. Maybe when you were in elementary school, they had those little characteristic signs that were at your elementary school, and it was integrity, it was kindness, it was responsibility, respect, those things that you would see at an elementary school. And I remember like seeing it at my elementary school. And then being a church child, I would learn about the fruits of the spirit. And I would see how those fruits of the spirit were like, oh my God, that's like the characteristics at my school. So of course I would apply those to my daily life and would want them to um of course, it wasn't just for me to do now that I see. It was for everybody. I learned them as a community. You know what I mean? Everybody in my community learned at church. That's a community. At school, that's a community. And then it dawns on me that not everybody is using those characteristics. Not everybody is as
Yeah.
kind as they say they should, or has to have this fruit of the spirit, especially at church, that they say they should. And it bothers me because we should draw people with who we are as people. And then that's how you retain them. That's how you retain a lot of people. Now, I can be honest and say some of the characteristics or some of the fruits of the spirit I may have dropped the ball on, maybe integrity, maybe respect, maybe responsibility, those sort of things. But then I also go back and I ask for forgiveness. I try to make sure that me and this person or whatever it is, I have recently lived a life, lived in this life where someone has literally, I walked into it and they have overlooked me and my child. And I was like, oh, so it's just, it goes a long way, and I appreciate Detective
I
Raymond in that movie,
yeah.
Tiana, who she played in that movie, how she respected her and she gained some sort of respect for her so that she could build that rapport and she didn't lose her life in such a bad way. But I just wanted to say all that to say Tiana did a good job in the movie. Detective Raymond's character was very good at being kind to her, someone she never knew, someone she never met, but she could relate to her.
When the person breaks down, they're like, well, why didn't she say something? And how do you know she didn't say anything? Or how do you know the person didn't say anything? What if they were saying something, but nobody was listening?
It wasn't about that. It was
She
just she
brought the
wanted someone to
chairs
hear
out
her, to
for her to
understand her, to
them to
be,
sit.
yes, to be
There was
kind.
Yeah, but I think you still have to recognize, even Tessa, who got on a lot of people's nerves, that was still traumatizing for them. Jania's character would have done, particularly if she snapped, right? And so I think a lot of people are like, "Oh, Tessa this and who wasn't this?" Even
I
if she
mean, I
wasn't
won't mad
gonna.
at Tessa. I
No,
think
no, I'm
Tessa
not
did
saying that.
very
I'm
well.
just saying in general.
Oh,
I'm saying that like there's a lot of people that was getting, really, really,
oh,
like
debate
really hard
Teller
on
some
Tessa.
grief. Yeah, I
Yeah, they're
mean,
really
she
hard on
was
Tessa. I'm
scared.
like, she was.
I mean, she should have counted that money, but she was scared.
Hmm. Yeah, and I think even just recognizing, like a lot of people, like, oh, why didn't they do this for her? Why didn't Tessa just cash her check? And I think recognizing that we all have policies, right? And that was a policy that you have to show your ID before you can cash a check.
I agree with that because if she really understood from her perspective as well as even though yes she sees you all the time, whether it's once a month, you come in and it's like it says in Ephesians chapter 4. It says it there. Be kind to one another. It literally says that. And if
So
we
yeah,
look
being
from
kind
her
to Tessa.
perspective, yeah, Tessa too, because you don't know what she's been going through as well.
We
She would
don't
have
know if her boss got on her because it was like, hey Tessa, you haven't been doing this. You haven't been doing this. Policy says you got to have ID. That's the policy of the practice that you walk into. When you decide to bank there, you got to follow that.
Okay, Mary, we get it. We get it's policy. You ain't have to go into all that when you
It
sign the
was.
bank. We get that.
It was.
no,
We know that you got to show ID. First of all, I don't have to show my ID at my bank. All I got to do is swipe my card. actually. I'm not easily offended, but it actually offended me because, oh, I think it was when you were talking about policy. And yeah, I get policy because I have to follow a lot of policy in my personal life at work. So I get that. It's a lot of rules that, I feel like I can make up in my head. I do say
Right?
that. But
Yeah.
I get corrected and whatever.
That's probably her way of process.
That,
She didn't do anything wrong. That is the policy of the Blades. And what if she had cashed her check? And what happened if it was actually not Jania's check and she picked up that check off the floor? It could be your check, and she just cashed your check and gave it to Jania. Then you gonna be mad at Tessa, right? So what I'm saying is she didn't do anything wrong. She just happened to be in the wrong place at the wrong time. Well, she was at her work, but she just happened to be the big teller that happened to service her.
Right. I agree. So we're going to take a quick moment, a quick break, and we'll be right back. If this moment is touching you, please help us out. Do not forget to like, share, and subscribe to the All About Moments podcast so we continue to have conversations like this and keep going and growing. Remember, your support helps us reach the audience that needs healing. So don't just listen, but share the moment. Subscribe now, like as well. Catch you at the next moment.
Welcome back, everybody. All right, so we're going to close this, and I want everybody to reflect on the conversation, on the last straw, what you got out of it. I'm going to say that Tyler Perry had another hit, a really good movie. I was very surprised. He had a really good hit. I loved all the characters. I think they did a really great job. Um, I don't know if I took anything from it. Maybe because I deal with this every day, all day. Um, I just thought it was really good. I mean, I don't think I took anything from the movie.
Okay. Aisha?
um, I feel like besides I guess the single mother part, I could pull a Janaya. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's what I took from it. Especially to the mean people. But other than that, I thought it was a really good movie. I appreciate the transparency. Appreciate the authenticity in the movie. I also I like just how he was able to connect the different emotions of it as well, and for bringing Sinbad, that was awesome as well to the cast. Yep.
Uh, that was a good one. So for me, I think my final thoughts is that we need to just encourage one another. You just don't know who is going through things in silence. I think we should. We've been saying several in some of our episodes. We do talk about building a community, but we should also remember to do check-ins with one another. Send some gentle words, some nice words of encouragement, and listen. Sometimes I think we don't listen to understand. We just not there, but sometimes we just need to listen. Some people just need a room to vent. Just as it says in Ephesians 4, I think it's verse 32, it says, be kind to one another, tender hearted, forgiving one another. We all deserve grace. Just listen. That's it. So thank you all so much for joining.
All right, yes.
Ooh,
Catch you at the next moment.